everybody. Thank you for joining us. I know Brightspace is new and we're all learning, and so there's a lot we want to cover, but today is about discussions and groups and maybe a little bit about communicating with your students if we have time. So we'll just go ahead and dive in. So this is just a quick page for you guys to see what your courses look like. In particular, the navigation bar is important here because we did set up a sandbox that we're going to use for the demonstration, and that will be slightly different. So I don't want to confuse you with that, but I do have this here for reference. So if you need to see your navigation bar, I'll come back to here. So we're talking about discussions, and the first thing we want to cover is a little bit of navigation, getting to discussions, some sort of ways that we like to get to discussions and think about accessing them. So if I'm in my homepage, which you can get to by clicking this UNE University of New England logo, or it's often the first page you'll get to if you get to Brightspace through Okta, you'll see this tile with my courses. As I said, we set up somewhere to show you under sandboxes, so that's where I'm clicked now, but you will see there are semester tabs and other navigation for your own courses. If you pin courses, which we covered in a navigation webinar, they will show up at the beginning of your tiles. And in this case, the sandbox here shows me that I have some discussions that I haven't seen yet. So that's what I want to focus on today. So this is one way to getting to them. I can even click right to the discussions from here. Otherwise, you can click, so back to the home page, you could just click into the course and navigate to discussions. In this case, as I said, our toolbar is a little different. Discussions is right here. In your toolbar, it's under course activities, discussions. So once I am here, I can see a list of forums, which are these words, and the topics under the forum, which are linked because those are the topics that students and you can interact with. So we'll scroll down in this case. Often courses do have resources, introductions. In this case, we have a few examples set up. So a group discussion and a class discussion. Another place I want to backtrack just slightly with navigation, you might see notifications up here. If you have fresh discussion posts or anything that needs some grading or attention, they will give you reminders. I don't have any now, but when you see a little red dot by these icons, that means you have communication that you can attend to. So those will take you specifically to the new items as well. In this case, I'm just navigating on my own. And I'm going to look at what a group discussion looks like. We're going to revisit groups in just a moment, but from your discussion board, in this case, it is called group discussion. Often we do have a separate forum called group discussion. So you'll see that that's what that is. And then it still has topics just the same. And you will see under the topic, this little icon that says it has group or section restrictions. So if you aren't sure if it's not called group discussions, you can see that there. And sometimes that might help you if you get student questions, if they can't see something, you can look and see if it's maybe a group, because then as Olga's going to discuss later, there's slightly few more steps you need for that one. So we'll come back to that, but this little icon can be helpful. And just while we're here, there's also this icon for assessment. And so that just says that this item is graded. It has a rubric most likely, and it counts toward the student's grade. It might not always have a rubric, but often our discussions do. In SPHP, you may see an additional little branching icon, and that means there are release conditions. So that means as the student progresses through the course, they can unlock the discussion by doing things, activities in the course that come before it. So those are helpful. The class discussions, right here is where we have an example set up. So if I needed to grade, you can see here, there is one thread and 2 posts and the last person who posted. So there's a few things you can either click here to go into the topic, or you can click here to see the posts. I'm just going to click into the topic so we see everything. And I have this set up as grid view. So some of you might have used a view similar to this in Blackboard, and Blackboard, it was called Tree View, I think. And I'm going to show you part of today is to show how to set that up. So I'm going to take a break from looking at the content and just show you that. So there's this little cog right here, settings. And when I click on that, this is discussion settings in particular. And so you can come to this page if you want and see if any of these speak to you in terms of setting things up for your discussions. But this is what we're talking about, default view that you can set up for yourself. So I can't change this across the board, but you can change it if you'd like to. As we said, I had grid view set up before. I'm going to switch it to reading view so we can see the difference. And reading view is the default. So now it did kick me back to the whole discussion forum area. So I'm going to go back down to class discussions, click the topic again. And now you'll see that I can see the prompt and I can see the thread down here. So some people get tripped up here. You can click more and you can see the thread. And you can see that there's an unread reply and one reply. But to really get into where it's meaningful, you need to click again on that thread topic. And then I can go in and I can see the whole post and I can see replies and I can reply if I want to. So if I'm going to be a part of this discussion or I need to moderate it in some way, that's where I'm going to go to do it. I can also then either of these buttons do that. So you can also reply right down here if you need to reply to a response post. And then as you can see, they have links in here and those work. It's often helpful. I'm glad I did that because it's more helpful, I think, to right click and open them in a new tab so that you keep this window open. You can always look at their reference on the side. So again, from the topic, I go to settings and grid view. So then when I scroll back down, so now I can see the thread is here and the response is here. It does show who authored each one and when, so that's helpful information sometimes. You can do a few things. You can mark them read or unread. I guess you could delete them if someone did something on accident. So here's the page where I click on the thread and I get a pop-up. So this is definitely a little bit different. And I can reply from here. And I can see that I'm subscribed in this case. A lot of times when you are an instructor, once you've clicked into something, definitely if you reply to something, it will subscribe you. And I can talk briefly about that as well, what that means. But I can hit next and I can see the response here. I can see that Thomas posted a response and I have the same abilities here and I'm subscribed to the whole thread. So in this case, we want to go to notifications. So if we are subscribed to a discussion and we want to be notified of things we're subscribed to, that is here. So again, you click your name, you click notifications, and you're brought to this page. You can set the email that it goes to. You can use your phone number if you'd like. You can do a few things here, but this is kind of what I'm talking about, instant notifications. So down here, discussions, excuse me, this one. When a new post is in a forum topic or thread that I subscribe to, and I will get an email. So this one's not set up to work on your phone, only email, but it's very helpful. So you can get notification to your email anytime a new post is added.
If I may chime in, it's very helpful to go and intentionally subscribe to the Ask Instructor or some similar forum so that you're notified right away, because that will help you managing your response time.
Definitely. And then those will also give you little notifications up here if you're subscribed.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about groups, because the way we set up the forums and the discussion forums and groups is very much different from the way it used to be in Blackboard. So if you have taught for us in the past, or still maybe wrapping up teaching in Blackboard, then you would know that we have a different setup where every group has its own section. So in Blackboard, each group had their own section, had their own discussion boards. Then there were multiple grade columns in the grade center for you to grade. And some of them would be grayed out for some students, but it would still be those multiple columns. And finally, if you wanted to participate in a discussion, you would have to go into every single group and participate in those forums, even when the information, for instance, you wanted to share was the same. Now, in Brightspace, the setup is a little different. And we have a group set up in a way that they connect to one topic. And that's some of the things that Ashley showed already. That a topic it's one discussion, but it's accessed from several groups. And so you only have to go to one place. You only have one grade item in grades, which makes it very convenient to grade. And finally, you can post to any group you want as an instructor, and you can post to all groups at once. So that's just the structural difference between these two. So now you should see manage groups and multiple groups in this course, and they are not populated. As you can see, it's once you click on groups, most likely this is the view you're going to get. And in this section, you have 5 groups, which is not always going to be the case, but this is a pretty reasonable number. If you have 20 people, 20 students, then every group gets about 4, give or take, and you can assign them any way you want. So let's do the assignment. Here, I will click on this drop-down menu and enroll users. Even if I'm going in and the users have been assigned, but I want to make changes, it will still be the same button. So enroll users. And we find it much easier to see everything at once, the entire user list, and see which groups they belong to in Brightspace than it was previously. So all you have to do is just click, and these users are assigned. It says group 1 has 2 users. You see that there's this icon next to the name, and that's all information that you may need. And then if you decide that actually you want people to be in different places, and that's what you will do. So you can just check and check. It's really easy to do, and then you'll save. So I'm going to cancel it this time. As far as grading is concerned, let me show from Quick Eval. This is typically the view, and we have 2 students who have submitted, and these submissions have not been graded, so we are right there. And if I click on any one of these submissions, it will take me to the grading view. Now, if you've graded in Brightspace before, and especially if you've graded something recently, you may have noticed that now there's this new experience that's available to you. And most likely this is the one that's going to stick, and the old experience is going to go away. So I'm going to leave this one on. And it is very similar to what you will find in what you have experienced in assignments. So here on the right, you have the discussion rubric, the same way as the assignment would display, and you can click, leave feedback, etc. And then when you're ready, you will publish it. So in this case, it's the old experience we're not going to tell them just yet. The old experience displays the rubric right on the top, and then on the bottom, you see the post. So typically you would grade after a student has posted multiple times, typically 3 times. So all of those discussion posts will be displayed here below from different threads. So this is not limited to a thread. In order to see what exactly that looks like, you can click on the link and follow and see that in different pane.
I'd like to just note that when you access discussions from Quick Eval, the advantage in either experience for grading is that you can scroll through multiple people. So it will, in this case, we only have 1 submission, it looks like. So it's a little bit harder to demonstrate, but it lets you grade all the discussions from one place, rather than if you go from the discussions, you can grade, but you're only grading one person at a time, and then it kicks you back. Same if you access it from the grade book, it's a little clunkier. So it is in general, I think, recommended to grade discussions from Quick Eval.
Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about grading at our next webinar. So this is a little plug-in. We hope to see you again there. I think that does it for our agenda for today. So we can open this up for questions.
We got one question. Can we keep the old view? Yes, for now, you do have the option. I don't know if at any point it might be pushed out for everyone, but for now you have the option. We also had a clarifying question about notifications. So I'm going to share again and just reiterate what I did. So from here, there are a few notification settings. So under notifications, you need to set up your contact method. So in this case, it's my UNE email. And if you have used email within Brightspace, there are Brightspace specific emails. So doing this is an important step. And then I think you can click from here to manage those settings. And there's another place I'll show you. But first, tied to those notifications, especially email, you can choose things that you want to be notified from your course. You can exclude some courses. And you can also set up a summary if you are interested in that. I don't use that, so I don't have a lot to say about that. I'm going to click change my email settings. This is just which email you're using. There is another place here from account settings where you can manage your email a little bit more. So you can send a copy of your own messages to that email that you programmed in. And you can also forward messages to that email you programmed in. So, and then again, once you've set up those things, at least the notifications, so then the things that you set up, especially related to discussion. So if there's a new post, notice that it says in a thread that I subscribe to. So you do have to go to your discussions list and subscribe. So for example, in the group discussions, I can subscribe right here. Clicking that, it lets you customize it. So you can choose to show in the mini bar, which is these little icons. You can get an instant notification, which will go to, in my case, email, because that's what I set up. Or you can include in your summary if you set up a summary, which again, I don't do that. I stick to the email. And then you hit subscribe and it kind of reiterates here where it will be sent. And then you can see you have the option to unsubscribe after that.
Question, Ashley, and that is going forward, should we now set up our own groups? And the answer is no. Typically, the course is set up the way it's supposed to be. Now, if you by setting up, you mean assigning students, enrolling students in groups, that can, for best results, if you're not sure, if you've never done it before, I would recommend that you reach out to an instructional designer. And we have that handy button that says contact IDS. And one of them is report a problem. This doesn't qualify as a problem, but that's exactly what we would like you to do. Please just fill out that form and we'll get back to you. Either the instructional designer immediately tied to your course, or somebody else will get back to you and walk you through that if you've never done this before. We have instructors who are very comfortable with this, and then we have instructors who really like to make sure that everything is set up perfectly, and we facilitate that.
So we did add help enrolling students in groups to that question. And I think a lot of you know this, but the value of using these forms is that they go to a shared account. So it's always monitored. So you might have a favorite ID, but it's better to go through the form because we can help you faster and more accurately. And it also helps us by tracking those errors. And we can see if a lot of people are having the same issue. Related under the same thing is the page I was going to show. If it's a general Brightspace question that you have, you can ask an ID, but you can also sort of troubleshoot on your own by going to the Brightspace FAQ page. And Olga is a big part of building this page, so I will let her explain how it's set up and the point of it.
The purpose of this page, we have offered several resources. One of them is detailed training, and everybody has been enrolled and has access to that. Another place is this, so that you don't have to go necessarily into a course, but some highlights are listed here. And it's truly frequently asked questions, things that would apply to most people as they're using Brightspace. So check this first if you have a question about something. If you do not see a good answer under any of these, we do provide some of the detailed tutorials. They tend to be a little bit less branded, let's put it this way, so they will not necessarily apply to our layout. And if none of this applies, if you don't get your question answered, then at the bottom right there, click the link, fill out the form, and we'll address that. And we'll get back to you. It's also constantly updated, so there's more information going into that, and we do react to people's questions. So feel free to ask, because there's a good likelihood that it's relevant to many people.
With that, we will wrap up. Thank you, everybody.